I object to a couple things. I'm not a law and order guy. I was driving down here from Akron today, and I got pulled over. And I
Say it again?
Again. And I said, you know, officer, this is not a time for retribution. This is a time to look forward. Haven't you heard? Are you going to watch the president tonight? He'll tell you. This is a time to look forward, officer. Do you want to damage the morale of speeders in this country? You're going to endanger national security. And, you know, it sounds like absolute nonsense, but you hear this crap on your television over and over and over and over again. And whether any significant percentage of people start to believe it, a huge percentage start to believe that a significant percentage believe it. And we all think we're in the minority on all sorts of things, even while we're still in the majority. And it dominates the thinking of those in Washington who pay attention above all to what's on television, whether it represents a huge percentage of citizens and constituents or not. I want to just, I think I know, but I want to just get a sense of where I am. Raise your hand if you think single-payer health care is a good idea. Keep it up if you think Glenn Beck is a heroic benefactor. Yes? All right. That's above average. I may have one person I disagree with on something. I mean, it's very useful for us to talk to each other because we can talk about what's most important and how to get active and how to do things. But we have to figure out a way to talk to others, too, in a civilized way, not the shouting and screaming and calling names. And this fine gentleman does not have a sign calling me a communist and a traitor. We have to figure out how to do that. Connie, I have to thank Connie for bringing me here and setting up this event, as well as Bob. And Connie asked me a long time ago if I could speak on healthcare this evening. So I'll be glad to take questions and answers about anything else that's in the book or anything else at all, but I'll try to talk a few minutes about healthcare. And I appreciate the fact that the president is speaking on the same topic a little bit later this evening, and at least some of you have chosen my speech instead. And I think actually almost any citizen's speech ought to be more important than the president's.
Right.
Because Congress ought to be looking to citizens for what to do and not to the president. And these progressive Democrats who are out there whining and moaning about how the president won't write the bill for them and the president won't order them to do a better job have got it backwards. They are the first branch of our government. They are the first 60% of our Constitution. They were given 80 or 90% of the powers in that document. They are supposed to make the laws of the land, and we are supposed to know that. And we are not supposed to dream of a single superhero who comes flying in and fights the noble fight against the corrupt Congress. And if Congress won't listen up, just does it with an executive order and saves us all. We are not supposed to think that way. And Congress is not supposed to want the president to be making laws. Not with signing statements, not with executive orders, not with secret memos, not by simply violating laws and going his own way, and not by drafting the bills for Congress. Now, behind the scenes, of course, and it's not a very well-kept secret, the president has been telling Congress what to do each step of the way on health care. He just hasn't publicly presented a bill. And what he's been telling them has not been very helpful. The progressives in Congress self-censored and pre-compromised and went out and demanded the least they would settle for as the opening gambit. Rather than saying we want single payer and then compromising where they had to, they didn't say a word. And this was a compromise not made with Republicans. This was a compromise made with Barack Obama. We hear a lot about Max Baucus and these senators who've taken a couple million, $1.5 million, 500,000. Barack Obama's taken 18 million from the same industry. He can outdo any of your dozen most corrupt senators on any industry, and anyone else before him in history. And so that sort of corruption gets to a president just as it gets to Congress members. But we can get to Congress members. On Labor Day, I went and talked to Congresswoman Betty Sutton at a Labor Day parade and got her to commit on the public option, which she had been unwilling to do before, and got her to talk about single payer, which she'd been avoiding. And all you had to do was walk up to her She's surrounded by thousands and thousands of her constituents, not a single one of whom had bothered to ever ask her this question. You try to walk up to a president, I gotta tell you, there's a thing called the Secret Service. A Congress member answers to 700,000 people. An outrageous, obscene, absolutely nonsensical number. We need a larger House of Representatives. We need to get rid of the Senate and make room for it, and we can talk about those kind of reforms if you want. But a president answers to the whole country. A president can ignore whole states, entire regions, and get elected. And he doesn't have to get elected in 2 years. He's got 4 years. He's dealing with sums of money beyond anything anybody can imagine. He is facing the focus of the corporate media's microscope all day long, every day, which is an incredible, the most powerful corrupting influence on an elected official. He is the head of a party and all of the corruption that goes with that. So the idea that, oh, well, I've still got a lousy Congress member, but now I can lobby Barack Obama. It's a nice fantasy, but it's not strategic thinking. If we had party discipline, right? If the Democrats had strict party discipline and could line up every one of those blue dogs and every one of those progressives the way the Republicans line everybody up with marching orders, then we could get a half-assed healthcare reform right away, and we wouldn't have to worry about it. Maybe so, but we couldn't get a good one. There would be absolutely zero opposition to wars in the United States Congress, and there would be absolutely zero support for majoritarian positions on almost every issue, because the Democratic leadership is against them. Not as bad as the Republican leadership, if you had to choose, but the ideal that we have to work for is for Congress members to represent their constituents, not a party leadership, not corporate funders, not any sort of wealthy funders, not the corporate media, not anyone other than their constituents. So we have to clean out. We have to clean out the money. We have to have all of those reforms. The president is apparently talking today, if what he said this morning has any bearing on what he's saying this evening, as I assume it does, that he will oppose any public option that costs any money. It's not neutral, right? This is our public morality, that the highest human good is to not spend any public money, right? And it's so twisted upside down, because if we were talking about single-payer health coverage, we would be talking about saving vast sums of money, but spending more of it through the government. In fact, all of it through the government. And that's the evil that has been implanted in many people's minds, still a minority, but a noisy one, that government spending is bad and private spending is good, even if you're wasting 30% on CEO salaries and advertising and waste and so forth. It's all good, because it's better than spending less but doing it through the government. Even if 40 million people don't get anything and tens of thousands of people have to die unnecessarily each year, that's okay, because we're not spending through the government. But even if we say, okay, we're just going to look at spending through the government, what we're spending on banks, what we're spending on wars, what we're spending on the military, we don't talk about. And everybody, all the way over to the craziest right, agrees with us on the banks one. They won't talk about the wars or the military, but they agree with us on the bank bailout. They actually try to conflate it with welfare, what's left of it for working people, and use the bank bailout to motivate us against poor people and immigrants. But they agree with us that the bank bailout was crazy. But we spend trillions of dollars, and we don't give it a second thought on the military, on our empire of bases, on our wars. Increasing every year, yet again this year, the biggest military budget in world history, and we don't talk about the money. But when it comes to healthcare, not only is the money a concern, the money is the top priority. It is our moral focus, not just of the Republicans, of the President of the United States. And this is what he's going to be talking about. So I applaud those of you who wanted to come hear an ordinary citizen talk and talk yourselves about this issue, and figure out how we're going to talk to your Congress members.